Back in 1999, many of us who played games made it time to bear this torch against the cold of the night. First of all, the sound effects that generally consist of fighting sounds and the grunts and cries of each different character. Speaking of scrutinizing the game, while the game seems simple on the surface, one of the biggest hypes surrounding any one Smash Bros. Game is what characters you may want to play this mode in short bursts. What sort of match you have is entirely up to you. You can have time, there is plenty to do, even if you're waiting for a spirit on the spirit board, or wanting a rematch with an unlockable character, or going through specific challenges. Much of the unlockables, even if it comes from doing the Inkling Splat Roller special move a few times or completing classic mode as a specific character, are fun to go through, but it's surely nothing compared to the countless hours spent in multiplayer or online, not to mention the game's near endless appeal. The Super Smash Bros. Series is generally a multiplayer series, and Ultimate doesn't disappoint in that regard. As mentioned before, there are so many stages and characters and customization options, right down to the controls that can be adjusted to anyone's preference. The online play, however, is somewhat mixed. There can be a fair amount of lag, although not necessarily as bad as in previous Smash titles. The matchmaking is also questionable. For starters, if you want to have a one-on-one match with no items, which is usually the case in tournaments, especially for professional Smash players, then there's a good chance you may not get that wish. There is nothing necessarily wrong with treating the Smash series like a party game where items and stage hazards make characters zap around like a pinball, but the relatively low probability of avoiding that, not to mention the amount of matches you may have to do to get a ranking quickly or slowly, is uneven. The arena mode unfortunately has a lot of waiting around, even if you can communicate with your friends to play online together. However, when the online works, it can be fun, right down to getting tags as in-game currency for being a good Smash player. Speaking of online play, the question is this game balanced? Can it possibly be so with so many characters to fight with? Having played with just about every character, there's no character that essentially sucks, and there'll surely be a character that'll fit your playing style. If you found heavyweight characters like Bowser too difficult to control previously, you may actually find them to be a good main. So, the balancing in Ultimate, while not perfect, has to be commended, and with updates, including DLC such as the character of the Joker from Persona 5 coming soon, as of this review, there is seemingly no end to this game. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is, much like its predecessors, a tribute to the past and present of Nintendo's franchises. Its history, its relevance, its legacy. If the first game of the series led to players discovering Earthbound through the character of Ness, to choose one example, the latest entry in the Smash series does well to keep that tradition going. It even features tributes or Easter eggs you may not expect, such as a boss fight from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. The trophies are very much missed now that the spirits have replaced them. The quantity of characters, stages, and spirits makes it hard to feature detailed information on the treasures of our gaming memories. It is a pity the spirits don't really have their backstory if you don't happen to recognize their origins. The characters' backstories are mostly brief, at least naming the games they featured in and what they do. There is not much information about the stages either, but if this game reminds anyone to rediscover Castlevania, do more research on characters like Incineroar, or features surprise inclusions such as Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, then it has done its job. But more than that, has Super Smash Bros. Ultimate done its job at being a good game? A worthy entry in the series? A game that can be played for many hours to come? Well, in many ways, yes. It is definitely faster than Brawl and Wii U, only slightly so. There are many characters and stages which are fun to experiment with and learn more about in terms of video game history. There is a lot of chaos and fun to be had with customization and multiplayer, not to mention a noticeably beefed up AI. It also looks and sounds great. The game is by no means perfect. The World of Light adventure mode can be repetitive, regardless of the ending and the unlockables you can get from it. The online needs a considerable amount of improvement. Unlocking characters could have been a little more challenging, even if you just bring people over to play one match after another with you to do so. The spirits feel somewhat lacking in customization in contrast to moves and attributes from the Wii U version, plus them replacing trophies feels like a minor downgrade when it comes to representing Nintendo's legendary history. But even then, that history is still well represented, with this entry in the series feeling like a reunion of all the characters, plus a few new faces. It's hard to imagine if there could be any more Smash Bros. Games after this. And above all, The fun and chaotic gameplay that can be great even at parties is what you'd play this game for. This game is, as of this review, getting minor updates and of course DLC, but the game being exceptional on its release and even today has to be commended. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is ultimately one of the best entries in the Super Smash Bros. Series and one of the best games on the Nintendo Switch. If you don't have a Nintendo Switch, let alone for playing with other people, get it for this game. And finally, since I like to hypothesize on video games for fun, whether a specific video game is for non-gamers / first-time gamers, or level up gamers, or experienced gamers, what category does this one fall under? It's tricky, what with its simple objectives and customizable controls, but I choose level up gamers. That seems fair.